Well, I have some very bad news for the people in the front rows. I heard that some of you paid as much as $800 for your tickets. Sadly, I did this same show a couple weeks ago in Atlanta for $60 a head. Can you imagine? Nigga, you could have flown to Atlanta, got a hotel, had some dinner, and came back, and you still have a little money left over, niggas. Paid way too much just to see me in this gay-ass neighborhood. All right, let me roll up my sleeves and tell these pussy jokes. Will told me to say there hasn't been this many pussy references in this room since Cats was here. Boy, I gotta tell you, man, I've been doing this set all week, and boy, I've been telling these jokes, and sometimes niggas look like they're in actual pain over the jokes. None of it's that bad to me, but I understand why it could hurt some people's feelings. So tonight, I'm gonna give you an opportunity that I rarely give anybody. I'm gonna let you say whatever it is you need to say to my face, or ask me whatever it is you wanna know. But there are no dumb questions allowed. If you ask a stupid question, you'll be asked to leave. Nah, I'm just kidding, go ahead. Everyone relax, come on. Oh yes, sir, in the front.
2 questions, how often do you write? And can I have a cigarette?
All right, first, you may have a cigarette, but remember, this is not jail, motherfucker. This lady right here.
I have a question. Do you remember this scene?
Oh, I do remember that. Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. That's a terrible question. This gentleman in the front with the salmon-colored shirt on.
I was wondering if you had any advice for young comedians that you generally give, and...
Are you thinking of doing comedy?
I've never done it before, but watching you has made me want to try it.
I don't know if that's an insult or not.
It's a compliment. It's.
I mean, niggas don't say I've never done brain surgery, but it looked a lot easier than I thought. I'm teasing. All right, here'd be my advice. Okay, I don't know how comedians start nowadays, right? But what I would suggest is just start. And once you start, you can't really stop, no matter what happens, no matter how bad it gets, no matter what people say. You know what I mean? Because comedy is weird like that. You know why I hate watching other comedians do comedy? Not because I hate other comedians, but because I love comedy so much. It's like watching somebody else fuck your girl. And I say, fuck her better than that. Yes, you on the aisle up there, the lady with the long... Yes, you standing up, I see you. My favorite book of all time, The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. That guy with the baseball hat.
Marry, fuck, kill, Michelle, Rihanna, Oprah.
Wait, who's Michelle? Oh, Obama. Well, sir, you're putting me in quite the pickle. I can't say I'll fuck Michelle Obama. That's insane. Well, I guess I mean, because I wouldn't kill any of those women, but I'd fuck all three of them. The gentleman in the blue Oxford standing up.
Tell us the story with Charlie Murphy.
Tell a story about Charlie Murphy?
Or your favorite.
Boy, there's so many good Charlie Murphys. You know, the thing with Charlie Murphy is he used to just make us laugh all the time. And I used to ask him about all the old Hollywood shit I was curious about. Like when they used to accuse Michael Jackson, I remember asking once, I go, Charlie, do you think Michael Jackson actually did those things? And he said, let me ask you a question, Dave. He said, say it is illegal to fuck women. How long are you staying out of jail? So God bless Charlie Murphy wherever you are. Charlie, I love you.
Who do you think is going to win the 2020 election?
All right, I'm going to put a pin in this, but I'll tell you right now, fella, I don't know, but I think Trump has a better shot than a lot of people would like to think. I'm just saying, it all depends on how the left talks. The way we're talking is not going to win the fucking ball game. Donald Trump's over there on the right, grabbing handfuls of pussy. Joe Biden can't even smell hair over here. Fuck this side. All right, man, go ahead.
Thank you so much for this show. And
How old are you?
25.
25? Yeah. Boy, don't let R. Kelly see you. He's gonna pee on you by accident. Oh, my bad. I thought she was 15. Yuck. I'm totally joking. I'm sorry.
My question is there anything you've learned from another comedian that you feel like will stay with you for life?
I tell you what, miss, that's a good question. Yes, is the short answer. A longer version of it is this. I was raised by comedians. I started doing stand-up when I was 14. The other day, I went to a comedian's funeral, and I realized as we was putting this motherfucker in the ground that these people are at least as influential to me as my family. I rock with these niggas till the wheel falls off. We fight and we fuss and we are jealous of each other and we get mad at each other, but my life wouldn't have been what it was without each and every one of them, and I consider them my family. That's the answer. My favorite club in America is a club in San Francisco called the Punchline. It's a very small room. It's a 200-seat room. And I was working out the material that was going to be the show tonight. I still hadn't figured out exactly how to say what I wanted to say, but I was doing pretty good. And I was doing some Me Too jokes. And a woman stood up from the audience and she was crying. Clearly, it was a white woman. She says to me, you can't say that. It's a 200-seat room, it's a very small room. I'm like, what the fuck are you, like, miss, are you okay? What are you doing? She says, you can't say that. I said, yes, I can, it's my show. I'll say whatever the fuck I want. The crowd's like, ooh, like this. And then she gets up from the table and she starts making a big, like, show, just pushing through the aisles and all this stuff. And there's like a curtain right before the front door. And she gets to the curtain and she's crying. It's fucking crazy. She says, I'm sorry I was raped. It's a fucking comedy club. It's like loud farting, getting out of an elevator. Nothing funny can happen in here. Now I'm trapped in a room with this woman's fucking stink. And I say, miss, it is not your fault that you were raped, but it's not mine either. Ta-ta, bitch, like this. She storms out. Now the room is very uncomfortable, but I managed to get the crowd back, but I'm like, a little traumatized. Same show, there's a trans woman sitting in the audience. This is a true story. This was like a few weeks ago. I did 6 shows that weekend. This trans woman came to 4 of them. Calls herself Daphne. Man, this chick Daphne was in there cracking the fuck up at everything I said about everybody. It was amazing. She was laughing, and it was fun to watch her laugh. You could tell she was letting go with something that was heavy, and she'd throw her head back, and she'd smile with all her teeth. She was having a great time. And the more fun she had, I felt bad, because I knew I had some trans jokes to unload. And I thought to myself, maybe I shouldn't say these jokes because I don't want to fuck her evening up. She's having so much fun. But then I thought to myself, well, if I can't say it in front of her, should I say this shit at all? So I let her rip. And to my surprise, Daphne laughed harder at the trans jokes than anybody in the room. In fact, everybody in the room would look at her to make sure it was okay. And I got off stage, I was in the dressing room, I was like, man, this is a fucking weird show. I'm sitting in the dressing room by myself just trying to figure out, like, what the fuck just happened out there? Like, why is it that this one woman can't take any of these jokes and Daphne can take all of these jokes? So weird. And then I realized, Daphne used to be a man. So now I go out of the dressing room and like you can see like all the staff was there like cleaning the club up, the audience had gone, and sitting at the bar by herself was Daphne. And she's like, hey, Dave, come join me for a drink. And I don't want her to think that I'm transphobic or nothing, so I'm like, fuck, I guess I could have at least a drink. And we get some tequila and we're sitting there. And she was fucking cool. Turns out that Daphne, she wants to be a comedian. She was asking me for advice, and I told her advice and all that shit. And then she says to me, she says, boy, you sure do get a bad rap for your trans jokes. I said, Daphne, thank you, but you don't have to say that. I hope I didn't offend you. She goes, no. She said, in fact, I read about you in the New York Times. I said, you did? She said, yeah. She said, I thought it was interesting that they blamed you for R. Kelly. They said you normalized him for telling jokes about him. I go, yeah, they said that. She goes, I wonder why they never said that you normalized transgenders by telling jokes about us. And I'd never thought about that. It never occurred to me. And we started making out. And then like, I reached up just to see what it felt like. I was like, what? And it felt like pussy, didn't it? It was just like, go ahead, ask me a question.
What the fuck you gonna do if Trump get reelected?
What am I gonna do if Trump gets reelected? Probably get a significant tax break. Hey, you wanna know why I don't even talk about Trump in my show? Because that motherfucker is not the hokey pokey. He is not what it's all about. There's millions of people that put him in power, and the ideas that he puts forth are not his own. He's singing poor white people's greatest hits. So why the fuck would I worry about him and not the other millions? Really, you know who I'm gonna vote for next time if things keep going the way it's going is that gay dude. No, Mike Pence. It's a safe place where I could tell some jokes. And I find out that this comedian I know, Chris Tucker, who's in all those Rush Hour movies, I find out that Chris is in San Francisco too at some charity event. So I call him, I'm like, yo, I just saw you at some charity event. I said, I'm doing a show at the Punchline. Why don't you come by the club after your event? And he's like, cool, Dave. I thought you was dead, nigga. I'll come by. He says, is it okay if I bring some friends? Because, you know, I'm with a lot of people. I go, man, you Chris Tucker. You can bring whoever the fuck you want. And then I show up to the club late that night. I walk into the dressing room, and sitting in the dressing room is Gavin Newsom, who at the time was the mayor of San Francisco, but now he's the governor of California. And sitting next to him was Kamala Harris, who at the time was the DA of San Francisco. Now she's the senator from California that's front-running on the Democratic ticket. And sitting next to her was Al Gore. Fucking weird. And sitting next to Al Gore was the guys from Google, Sergey, and I don't know how to say these. All right. And it was Chris Tucker and Ben Jealous, who at the time was the president of the NAACP, who was all just at this big charity dinner, and Paul Mooney was drinking scotch. And we all was just in there. And, you know, first I was a little uncomfortable when we started talking, and we all got along really well. Well, at some point, Kamala Harris she says to me, she goes, you know, a friend of mine is announcing his candidacy for president tomorrow. I went to college with him. I'm like, what? I go, Barack Obama? She goes, you've heard of him? I'm like, yo, I just read about this dude. And she goes, yo, yeah, blah, 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 we talking. She goes, you know what? She says, Let's call him on the phone. I said, what the fuck? And she picks the phone up and she dials and she's listening like this. And she goes, this is voicemail. And she gives me the phone, she goes, leave him a message. You know, I didn't know what to say. I just said what you say to any black dude that's running for president. You know, stay low, running a zigzag pattern, this kind of shit. And then the last thing I say is, you know what? I said, sir, well, I really do believe you can do this. Like, man, I'm wishing you luck. Now, next day I wake up and go for coffee at a place called the Embarcadero. It's like an eatery by the sea in San Francisco. And I'm walking to the coffee shop and there's a police line and I can't cross the tape. But then I figure, fuck it, I'm Dave Chappelle, so I go into the thing like this. And the police yoke me. These motherfuckers like tackle me immediately. And I see over the police's shoulder Gavin Newsom. I couldn't remember his name, but I remember the night before I had kept teasing him and saying he looked like Christian Bale, the guy from the Batman movies. So I see him and I can't remember the name, so I'm just like, Batman, help! And he stops, he's like, Dave? And then the police see that the mayor knows me, so they're all like, oh, sorry about that. And he's like, hey, back up, everybody. And he just picks me up. He's like, I'm really sorry about that. I'm like, I'm fine, don't worry about it. And he's like, listen, I'm here with Prince. Would you like to meet him? I'm like, I know Prince. That's my nigga. And we go around the corner, and it was Prince Charles, the Prince of England. I didn't know the protocol of meeting royalty. You're not supposed to touch him. I dapped him up like a nigga. My nigga. Wow. Just hugging him and shit like this, dapping him up. Like this. And that nigga was cool too. I was like, it's really fucking weird. And then I was just out there in the upside down, not having no TV show, trying to figure life out. And the election was going on in the background. And this guy, Barack Obama, was picking up steam. This motherfucker was killing it. And I had a chance to go to the last debate on the Democratic ticket, and I went. It's me and Chris Tucker sitting in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's the last three candidates. It was Barack Obama, John Edwards, and Hillary Clinton. Now, Obama's a lot taller than Edwards and Clinton, and he had the center podium. And at one point, they're all on stage, and they start fussing, and Obama goes, look, none of us are perfect, like this. And his hands was like this, and there was light shining behind his head, and the other two candidates was looking up at the nigga, and I was sitting in the audience like, this nigga looks like Jesus. And I realized in that moment that I was looking at the next president of the United States. I was certain of it. I couldn't explain it, but I knew what I was seeing. And I got really excited. And I'm not that kind of guy. I said, I gotta meet this motherfucker. So I stayed. They were all on stage doing interviews, and I just waited. I was waiting and waiting, and then John Edwards was done with his interviews first, because everybody knew he wasn't gonna win. And I see John Edwards, and I said, hey, Senator Edwards, I just want to say hi. And that motherfucker looked at me like, I'm like, fuck you, nigga, you gonna lose anyway. And then he left, and then Hillary Clinton just walked by me in one of them Steve Harvey suits. But Obama was taking forever. Everybody wanted to talk to him. When I knew the media saw exactly what I saw, there was no question about it. That was the guy. I waited and I waited, and finally, must have been over an hour and a half, he finishes his last interview. He's like, well, thank you very much. Good talking to you. And he turns around, and we make eye contact. He sees me, and when he sees me, he looks over, he goes, Dave Chappelle. And Obama did me the same way I did Prince Charles. He dapped me up, and he like bro hugged me, and he pulled me in, and I'll never forget this. He said in my ear, I got your message. Thank you very much, New York. I said, I need a gun immediately. The guy didn't answer, no questions. He just grabbed a 12-gauge shotgun, handed it to me. I'd never even held a gun before. I'm not a dummy. I'm like, well, I need some bullets too. And the guy reached under the counter, put 2 box shells on the counter. He said, all right, buddy, which box do you want? I didn't know. One box had a picture of some ducks on it. The other box had a picture of some deer. I said, well, what's that box with them ducks? He said, oh, that there's bird shot. And then he goes just like this, I'm not exaggerating, he goes, that won't kill a man. He said, it'll just pepper him up nicely. I said, what the fuck? Pepper? I said, well, what's that box with the deer on it? He goes, oh, that there's buckshot. That'll put a hole in the goddamn truck if you wanted to. So which box do you want? And he picked the one with the deer up and shook it. I thought he was trying to trick me. I was like, do you have a box with a picture of a white dude trespassing on it? Because it's exactly the strength I'm looking for. The fuck am I getting my kids vaccinated for an old-ass disease like measles? This is ridiculous. You might as well give them a diarrhea shot if you're so worried. Diarrhea has a bigger body count than the measles do. You know, diarrhea is funny today, but 100 years ago, if your ass had diarrhea, you were a goner. There was like a 0 chance of survival. You get that first squirt, uh-oh. Better start getting my affairs in order. But I don't have much time. It's diarrhea, it's very serious. You just watch your buddy slowly die in a pool of his own shit. I give up diarrhea. Too strong. Nowadays, your buddy just be like, oh, we got diarrhea, just eat a banana, nigga, drink some water, let's get to the club. Still make last call. Because if these women were serious, you know what they would have done? They all would have fired their agents. And they would have went to the mailroom of one of these big agencies and found a woman that was busting her hump in there and said, if you want to talk to us, then you have to talk to her. And if they did that, then she would be big and they would be big and nobody would get fed to Harvey Weinstein. But did they do that? No. Was that their idea? No. Surprisingly, it was mine. And what I think the feminist movement needs to be very successful is a male leader. I'll do it. I will. I will lead you women to the promised land. I will make sure you get equal pay for equal work. I will make sure that nobody harasses you or fucks with you on the job. I will protect all of your interests. And all that I ask for in return is that you suck my dick. You know, everyone has it hard, but I think harder than black people and harder than Arabs and harder than Mexicans, you know who has it the worst? Fat black people. It's hard for white people to understand, but that's what I'm saying is very true. Fat black people have a really rough road, because all manner of things kill white people, but you know what kills more black people than anything, more than police and terrorism? Salt, nigga, regular ass table salt. Here, white people are getting Ebola cures and shit, and meanwhile, I'm dying from fucking the flavoring. Look, honestly, I'll stop talking about it. Let me say this, though. Let me just say this. Can we all just say that we've seen it coming? Were you surprised? It's like when that guy threw that banana at me. Do you think I was surprised? Hell no. I've been in show business 30 years. I was expecting this banana. I knew one of these nights, it's like somebody gonna throw a banana at me one of these nights, niggas. I'm just being real. It's fucked up, man. It's a tough time for the blacks. I love you too. And then here comes the banana peel. I'm waiting on it in a second. You know that's how it starts. I saw in the paper today that the guy that threw the banana at me got arrested again because he threw a banana at another motherfucker in a bar in Santa Fe. Look it up online after the show. He actually did that. And that guy was black too. I'm just saying. And you know what a guy said he did it at night? He said, I did it because Dave Chappelle is racist. So, nigga, that's not the best way to handle that if I am racist. What if Martin Luther King just went around throwing tuna casserole on white people? Would that work? Huh? I seen your girl bubbling. She's drunk as hell, buddy. Listen, sir, I don't know what she's saying, but just take my advice. Get some water in her, or you're gonna have some dry pussy when you get home. I remember I was at this bar one time. This is that kind of bar it is. I was in there one time, I was fucked up, and I turned around to everybody in the bar, I go, hey, everybody, I'm gonna buy everyone in the bar around the drinks. And all the motherfuckers like, hoorah! And the bartender knew I was drunk, so she pulled me aside. Miss Chapelle, are you sure about that? That's going to be $16. Guess who was in the bar? I thought I was seeing things. I looked across the room, and I saw the trans bitch from the picture. I said, what is a trans person doing in a place like this? This is very dangerous behavior. And she was with two big, buff, gay black dudes. I didn't know these dudes, but I know they was gay. If they had a dick in their mouth, they wouldn't look any gayer than they did just sitting there. They had 1980s gay face. You know what that is? Remember in the 80s when gay people look surprised all the time? You think like Caitlyn Jenner's a bad person. I'm not mad at her for doing it. Not even mad at Sports Illustrated. If I'm mad at somebody, I'm probably just mad at myself. You understand? Because deep down, I know that I am not strong enough to not look at those pictures. And I don't think I'm ready to see what she's trying to show me. So Caitlyn, goddamn it, if you go through with this thing, bitch, you better go hard or go home. I want you to go all the way. Hustler style. Do you know what hustler style means, miss? That means spread the lips. I hope she spreads her lips and there's an itty bitty dick inside. Ah! The show is behind the curtains. Gender is a fact. You have to look at it from a woman's perspective. Look at it like this. Caitlyn Jenner, whom I've met, wonderful person, Caitlyn Jenner was voted Woman of the Year. Her first year as a woman. Ain't that something? Beat every bitch in Detroit, she's better than all of you. Never even had a period. Ain't that something? Oh, I'd be mad as shit if I was a woman. I'd be mad if I was me. If I was in a BET Awards sitting there and they're like, and the winner for Nigger of the Year, Eminem, my man. You can see it. You ever have this happen? This is how confusing it is. This is the practical application of what I'm talking about. Like a guy be out, this happens to a lot of guys, you be at a club, bar, right? You're just kicking with your boys, and a girl walks by, and man, she looks good. She looks good. Not good in that classical way. I mean, you know, I'm talking good like she got half her ass hanging out her skirt. Her titties are all mashed together, popping out the top of her turtleneck and shit. And you with your buddies, right? You with your buddies, you got a couple drinks in you, and you see a girl, you might try to talk to her. This might not come out right. I don't know what you say, but damn, look at them titties! Right? The girl gets mad at you. Oh, wait a minute. Just because I'm dressed this way does not make me a whore. Which is true. Gentlemen, that is true. Just because they dress a certain way doesn't mean they are a certain way. Don't ever forget it. But ladies, you must understand that that is fucking confusing. Just is. Now that would be like me, Dave Chappelle the comedian, walking around the streets in a cop uniform. Somebody might run up on me. Oh, thank God. Officer, help us. Come on, they're over here. Help us. I'm like, oh. Just because I'm dressed this way does not make me a police officer. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, all right, lady, fine. You are not a whore. But you are wearing a whore's uniform, I'll tell you that shit right now.
A similar way about you, we had Chris Rock up here, and we do this thing called Battle of the Best, and we have the guests sit their name in the bag and say who you think is better, and then your name came up, and this is what Chris Rock had to say.
Yo, man. The only man that puts fear in my heart on stage is Dave motherfucking Chappelle.
Wow.
That's big coming from you. Thanks, Chris.
Put fear in your heart.
I'm like, all right. I still might have to take him out, but my adrenaline's going.
Yeah.
Like Dave Chappelle's a beast.
Wow, man.
That's
crazy. And it's funny. I think he's going to actually take you out on August the 5th, right?
The 5th and the 6th.
In the 6th. But how does that make you feel to have like who is it that you would like be apprehensive about going on before or after?
I don't know. Evil Knievel or something. Every once in a while you'll be backstage. Yeah, sometimes Donnell be on stage and he'll open the show and I'll hear the crowd scream. I'm like, God damn. Like, I remember in Atlanta the other week, every night he got a standing ovation. And I would tell him, if they stand up tonight, you're fired. And I see him walk that tight. We was fucking around, but it was like, it's fun though. Like when a comedian does real well in front of you, it's still like a fun. It's not even competitive's not the right word, but it's exciting to see a guy or girl go up there and rip it, and then you got to go on after them. And can you do it? It gets less suspenseful as the years go on.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So, but any given night, your number could be up, and every once in a while, there's a crowd that has your number, or your bag of tricks doesn't work. But most of the time, if they buy a ticket, they want it to work, and they're with you. You just gotta bring it all to fruition.
I know me, as far as a comic coming to D.C., and there's a lot of great comics coming out of D.C., we used to pride ourselves on that, and that's how you got your name. It's
That's
like,
very true.
Yeah. You know, like you would be on the open mic list. When I first started, people were like, oh, yeah, we're going to put you behind so-and-so and see how you do. But you felt good knowing that you would be challenged to take your game to the next level. It's the same thing like with boxing, whatever, you know. Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes with his sparring.
Who was the first guy that blew you off the stage?
I don't think I ever got blown off the stage.
Oh, wow. He's conceited. He's conceited.
No, I felt some heat. In D.C., at that time, you'd already left, but Teddy Carpenter was one of those acts
Tell the truth. I know that.
Yeah, Teddy Carpenter's one of those dudes that would like really bring it to you. I've took some L's.
I'll tell you who got me. Remember Chris Thomas?
Yeah.
Destroyed me. I'd only done stand-up like 4 times, and they were like, we're going to put, Chris Thomas by this time must have been doing stand-up like, what?
42 years.
Yeah, like
he's 100 now. No, I'm joking.
He been doing it, man. And they were like, Dave, we're gonna put Chris up next. And then the MC literally goes, you can go home if you like.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I'm staying. I bombed. It was the worst. I dry mouth bombed. You ever get bombed so bad that you get thirsty?
Part of that was probably, but you were like, I think part of that is because you were like a young comic. You didn't have the experience of knowing how to transfer that energy from one comic to the next.
Exactly. It was a lack of experience. So cut to like years later, this is when we were all doing like Def Comedy Jam tours, and we were at Madison Square Garden. The show was Chris Thomas, Chris Tucker, and they made me close. Man, I murked that shit.
Yeah, but you was ready then.
That was my Karate Kid tournament night where I was like...
I do remember, it wasn't a comedian, but years ago they had a show called Apollo Comedy Hour. And at that time, the comedians, they didn't really care about, they weren't that important. Like the comedians, they would put them on any slot. So it was a day where they had turned the audience over 3 times to just change the seats. And they kept pushing me back. I was probably only doing comedy for 5 months. And then it was like, we got a special guest. Biz Markie came in.
Oh, dope.
Biz Markie came in and just did a guest spot. Biz Markie came in, destroyed the room, and it was so funny because people was leaving after he left. It was like, we got this new comedian from DC, right? I was like, y'all not gonna do this to me, and because I knew that you couldn't curse, right? My first 2 minutes was like, fuck this shit, don't tape this shit, don't, and it was it. But Biz Markie blew me out the water.
A rapper took you down.
Yeah, took me down hard.
Dave did that to me.
Oh.
Me?
You.
Where?
Donnell Rawlins invited me
Why
to
you had to say my whole
because it was
name?
you.
All right.
Donnell
like
Rawlins
a police
invited
officer.
me to a taping of the Chapelle show. Donnell and I were working together with Ricky Lake. I go down there. He said, yo, we doing a taping tonight. I'm opening up. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen Dave Chappelle since. Dave actually came to the first season taping a Real World reunion with a comedian named Dave. You was there in a hotel hanging out, had a good time. I was like, oh my gosh, he may remember me. So I go and I'm sitting in the audience. Dave comes out and was like, oh shit, Heather B. All Glocks down. Let's battle right now. And I look, and this heat, fuck a dry mouth. The heat came over my body. He was like, lock the doors. You're not leaving until we freestyle on stage. And I was just like, no, he's like, you sucker MC. I was like, yo. I said, oh shit. Yo, I felt you suck, Dave.
Dave Chappelle all the way to like, I don't know, I can say like mentor somebody or tell them to improve, but that was like pretty, I don't know, I can say pretty aggressive way. We're going to the part of Chris Rock, believing that Dave Chappelle is really good. And in life, right, it's good when you meet somebody that is, in life, when you meet somebody that is way better than you, when you meet somebody that is way better than you, it's good to always give them the applause for it. You know, Dave Chappelle talked about the Chris Talk guy. And also he spoke about, in one of his interviews, he spoke about Eddie Murphy. He doesn't do stand-ups anymore, but he is phenomenal. He is like awesome. He's awesome. He's like, man, he's good. He went into movies, so like give credit to who credit is due. You see that somebody's way good than you, man, give him the pros for it. You know, this guy sees Dave Chappelle as mentor as his boss. Chris Rock sees Dave Chappelle as somebody that is great. I'm going to the part of Will Smith and Chris Rock Oscar slap. As Jada Pinkett is separated with Will Smith, does that make Chris Rock happy seeing that they are both separated? Or it's nothing that is a pretty big deal to him? But let's continue with this conversation.
We have a good time, you know? We have a good time.
He did that to me.
That was, we had fun, man.
It was fun.
I miss doing the show sometimes. I don't know that I could ever do it again. So like the hours, and then the context is so different now.
Difference. Like since back then, the world's changed, right?
Yeah. There was no smartphones then.
Yeah.
I remember after I quit my show, I was in San Francisco, and someone just gave me tickets to Macworld. And I sat in the front, I was by myself. And I watched Steve Jobs introduce the iPhone. And had I known what he was doing, I would stuck a pencil in his chest. Trying to save humanity.
That's real?
Yeah. Jesus Christ, I mean, the world is a totally different place.
Yeah.
And as those phones get bigger, we all get dumber. I haven't read a book in years, yet I consume itty-bitty hors d'oeuvres of information all day, every day.
It's, I would say,
all right, here's the story. I started doing stand-up comedy when I was 14. I'll never forget the first time I was on stage. The guy that introduced me was a guy named J.T. Newton. I'm 47. I can close my eyes and remember the introduction like it was yesterday. It went like this. Ladies and gentlemen, this next young man coming to the stage is starting his comedy career tonight. Who knows? We may be witnessing the birth of a star. Please welcome David Chapelle. From the first time that I ever held a microphone, I was sure this was it. I knew I was home. I knew I had found my thing. And my God, man, I was a child. I got good. Matter of fact, I was good from the moment I started. And I'm not saying this to be a braggart. I'm telling you the truth. These old niggas was in awe of me. How was this little boy so poised? They used to say. I was. I mean, you know, I got better, but it started out good. About a year into it, when I was 15 years old, I had written a joke during the AIDS epidemic about having a Goodyear condom. Something, I don't even remember the joke. Something about an industrial strength condom by Goodyear. I just remember all the comedians really liked that joke. And there was an older comedian. And he came to me one night after the show, after he saw the joke, and he said, listen, I got an audition at another comedy club, and I was wondering do you mind if I do that joke? I just want to borrow it. Now, I'm a kid. I don't know any better. I'm like, borrow it? Well, I guess, sure, if it'll help your career. I let him do the joke. And then weeks later, I was waiting to go on in a comedy club, and he went on before me, and he did the joke. And after the show, I pulled him aside and I said, hey, man, I don't mind you borrowing my jokes, but you gotta give them back. He said, oh, I forgot to ask you. He goes, let me buy that joke from you for $50. And I said, man, I'd do it, but I'm just starting out. I need all the material I can get. The idea being that the more material I can accumulate, the faster I'll be able to make money for my work. I said, I can't do it. I want my joke back. I'll never forget this. Remember, I was a 15-year-old child. This guy was a grown-ass man. He stood up over me so I could see how big he was. And he said to me, really? I can just take it. And he did. I got scared because I was a child. But I never forgot that. I never forgot that. I was 15 years old. I'm 47 now. I think about this guy all the time. When I look at my own kids and I see how young and innocent they are, I can't believe someone did that to me. And I don't think about it every day because that was the worst thing that happened to me. I think about it every day because that was the first time that someone ever did that to me. But in my career, it has happened many, many times since, where someone would intimidate me or scare me and take something that I believe was mine. I'll tell you another story. Now I'm 18 years old. I'm living in New York City, and I just finished my first road tour, which was a very difficult tour. I'll spare you the details. Now I'm back in New York, but my rent is paid, thank God. And I have $60 to my name, and a woman that I had met in Pittsburgh, a bad Dominican bitch, was coming to New York. She was going to spend the weekend with me. I couldn't wait for her to get there. She was coming that evening. But remember, I only had $60 for a whole weekend to entertain a bad bitch. Now I'm walking through Greenwich Village, and I see something I've never seen before. 3-card Monte. You know what that is? Yeah, the guy had the whole thing. The table was set up, and he had the 3 cards, and the crowd was hooting and hollering, and he was like, find the red card, find the red card, and people were playing. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, but it was really exciting, and I'm standing there watching it, and I noticed while I'm watching them play this game that the red card, the one you're trying to find, had just a little bend on the corner. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, yo, this guy doesn't seem to know that red card is bent. I'm gonna beat this motherfucker. And I walked up to the table, and I said, let me play a hand. And I put my last $60 on that table, and he starts to shuffle and find the red card, find the red card. And I kept watching that bent card go around the table, make sure I kept my eyes on that bent card. And when he stopped shuffling, and he said, find the red card, I pointed to it with confidence. Here it is right here. And he flipped it over, and it was black. And he took my money. I couldn't fucking believe that. How did this nigga do that? Was that magic or sorcery? I was confused. So you know what I did? I sat there, and I watched him for a real long time play the game. And I realized that all those people who was doing all that hooting and hollering and betting, my God, they were his friends. They were in on the whole thing. I felt so wronged. I felt so stupid. And then the next sucker came up to the table and was about to put his money down. And I said, fuck that, man. Don't put your money there. All these niggas is in on it. It's a trick. And when I said that, the guy that was dealing, and this motherfucker was huge, snatched me up by my collar. Feel how strong he was when he grabbed me. I was a skinny little guy. And he was gonna maul me. And the only reason he didn't, I'm sure, is because he saw the fear in my face. And that fear, he looked at me. I saw his eyes go from hard to soft. He softened. Then he looked at me like the way a father would look at a child. And he said to me, young man, don't ever come between a man and his meal. I never forgot that either. Most niggas would have to run the streets for years to learn a lesson that profound. It took me 2 seconds. Never get between somebody and their paper. Taking a man's livelihood away from him is akin to killing him. Do you know why Prince, the famous rock star that was a friend of mine, do you know why he called himself the artist when he came back? He calls himself the artist because that's what they call us in our contracts. Oh, these contracts are crazy. You should hear the terminology they say in these contracts. To use your name and likeness in perpetuity throughout the universe. Who the fuck could possibly know what that means? Nobody does. It's so complicated, in fact, that when you're a kid like me, you have to hire somebody to tell you what that means. And you sit down at a table and you do the contract game. And that's how I got with Comedy Central. I signed the contract. But I signed the contract the way that a 28-year-old expectant father that was broke signs a contract. I was desperate. I needed a way out. And it wasn't good money and it wasn't good circumstances. But what else am I going to do, I said. And all these white people sitting at that table told me, trust us, Dave, it's a good contract. And I looked around the table and they all seemed to agree it was a good contract. But what if it was like that game of three-card Monte? What if they were all friends and I didn't know it? And the bag of money was Iceberg's money in the first place. What was I talking about? What was I trying to tell you? Last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, I call Lauren Michaels and I tell him, okay, I'll do it. I'll do Saturday Night Live on election night. And the day I made that phone call, the day I committed to it, it gets announced that Netflix is streaming Chapelle show. Not just Netflix, HBO Max is streaming it too. Let me tell you another story about HBO. No, hear me out. Did you know, before Chappelle's show was at Comedy Central, I pitched that show to HBO. I told them what I wanted to do. Now, these are executives. All they have to do is say, yeah, we'll take it, or no, thank you, we won't. But they didn't say either of those things. They went too far. They said, literally, what do we need you for? That's what they told me, as they kicked me out of the office. What do we need you for? And here we are, all these years later, and they're streaming the very show that I was pitching to them. So I'm asking them, what do you need me for? People think I made a lot of money for Chappelle's show. When I left that show, I never got paid. They didn't have to pay me because I signed the contract. But is that right? I found out that these people were streaming my work and they never had to ask me or they never had to tell me. Perfectly legal because I signed the contract. But is that right? I didn't think so either. That's why I like working for Netflix. I like working for Netflix because when all those bad things happened to me, that company didn't even exist. And when I found out they were streaming Chappelle's show, I was furious. How could they not know? So you know what I did? I called them and I told them that this makes me feel bad. And do you want to know what they did? They agreed that they would take it off their platform just so I could feel better. That's why I fuck with Netflix, because they paid me my money, they do what they say they're gonna do, and they went above and beyond what you could expect from a businessman. They did something just because they thought that I might think that they were wrong. And I do. I think if you are fucking streaming that show, you're fencing stolen goods. They stole that from me. They just took it. And I'm not up here trying to tell you guys that I believe that Comedy Central gave me a raw deal just because I'm black. I believe that they gave me a raw deal because this fucking industry is a monster. It's the same monster that these Me Too bitches was trying to tell you about. But they hate the monster for how it fucks. And I hate that monster for how it eats. But my God, man, it's the same monster. When I quit the show, all my friends would say, well, fuck them, Dave. Why don't you just do Chappelle's show at another network? Yeah. And why doesn't a slave run from one plantation to another plantation because the master over there might be nicer? My God, man, I was trapped. You know what? Tell you the truth. I've even thought about coming back and doing another Chappelle show. Well, but if I do, I can't call it Chappelle's show because my name and likeness is being used by them in perpetuity throughout the universe. It's in the contract. You're not supposed to do this in my business. I'm up here doing something that nobody else in this business has the balls to do. I'm telling you something that you need to know. I'm trying to explain to you what you're seeing. You don't understand what you're seeing. I am publicly flogging a network. And I know that this network niggas, they watching me and they saying, why are you doing this so publicly? Doesn't feel good to be flogged publicly. Oh, believe me, I know. I know exactly how that feels. When I quit my show, they said I was crazy. What was crazy about it? I just didn't want to do it anymore. They said I smoked crack. That's impossible. I was a devout Muslim. I didn't smoke or drink. But I do now, bitch, because you ruined my fucking life. Now it's their turn. This is their first nigga lesson, and I'm honored to give it to them. They're gonna pay me for this show. I called my agent. I said, is there anything I can do about this show? And he said, no. Well, fuck you too then. If you want something done right, I guess you gotta do it yourself. So I'm not going to the agents. I'm coming to my real boss. I'm coming to you. I'm begging you. If you ever liked me, if you ever think there was anything worthwhile about me, I'm begging you, please don't watch that show. I'm not asking you to boycott any network. Boycott me. Boycott Chappelle's show. Do not watch it unless they pay me. If you're a shareholder at Viacom, then I'm talking to you. Because all that shit that they do to us, well, they do everything for their shareholders. That's what they told me. So if you're a shareholder in that company, tell them it's wrong. And if you don't believe that it's wrong, then fuck you too. You should know what's in the hot dogs you eat. Now, there's probably a bunch of people at Comedy Central and Viacom and all these places that have no idea what I'm talking about. They've all either quit or been fired or got Me Too'd or something. Them niggas is gone. And there's a whole bunch of new young people there, and they're probably looking like, what is he talking about? They may not actually know what the fuck happened to me. So I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Go downstairs to your accounting department, open the books, see what that show made, and look at what you paid me. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to pay me. I am inviting you to come with me and work with me. And let's fight against that terrible, terrible feeling that you made me feel together. We can fight together and work this thing with Chappelle Show out. Or I can just take it. Thank you.